Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This is about my girlfriend's sister. Yes, we are not related, we'll be crazy if we were, and not even in-laws yet. My girlfriend and I have talked about all this marriage stuff. But I'm still in nurse practitioner school and she's still a college student. So yeah, maybe in some years. My girlfriend is from a big family, 3 real siblings, 2 half-siblings, and 2 step-siblings. They already accepted me kind of as a son-in-law and I really love them. Except for her oldest half-sister, the black sheep, the main cast. Me, my wonderful girlfriend of nearly 4 years, and her white trash entitled half-sister, also starring my girlfriend's mom, my maybe future mother-in-law, and a real saint and caring mom, a middle-aged neighbor, a big guy with a bald head and tattoos, and a deadbeat dad who is a sister-in-law's boyfriend and father of one of her kids. She's got 2. The father of the other is still in jail for possession of an illegal weapon and destruction of property. He seemed to have slashed someone's tires with a switchblade and messed up his car with a hammer and got caught. Real smart guy. So it started 1 month or 6 weeks ago, but I know the aftermath today. My girlfriend and I had a day off together, kinda rare these days. So we did the whole COVID couple stuff. Mostly cooking together, watching Netflix and shopping online for some furniture. Yeah, we are an old couple already. Then my girlfriend received a text. She wasn't amused. She told me her sister wanted to come over to ask me a medical question. I wasn't a fan of that. I hate her guts. And to top that off, I had to put on some pants and leave the couch. Real bad start. My sister-in-law showed up 20 minutes later. We sat down in the kitchen. I say, "So, what do you need?" Sister-in-law answers, well, you know my son broke his arm because he fell off his skateboard. Yeah, I know. I made the cast in the emergency room, remember? Is there a problem with the cast? Oh yeah. No, the cast is fine, but he's in pain. Could you get us some painkillers, from the hospital? Yeah, it's an open secret that some nurses and doctors sneak some stuff out of the hospital, but I rarely do. We've got some ibuprofen. Nah, that doesn't work. I want the good stuff. Morphine or oxycodone. And then things went south. Morphine and oxycodone are some of the hardest painkillers available. They can harm your body if you take them regularly, and they are prescription only, used in emergency medicine. They can be addictive and morphine can make you high. In Germany, drug laws are strict. Possession or dealing with prescription drugs without a prescription is considered drug dealing. My girlfriend directly knew what her sister wanted. What I didn't know is that my sister-in-law has a past of drugs and alcohol, and the deadbeat dad has a past of drugs, alcohol, and violence. He was in juvenile detention at 16 for the first time for some months, and then again at 17, both times for possession of drugs. He was out on probation at that time. He served 18 months in prison and was on probation. What was he in for? Dealing drugs and possession of an illegal weapon. He had some brass knuckles. My girlfriend says, "Are you serious? You asked my boyfriend to steal drugs for your stupid boyfriend? How are you talking about the father of your nephew? We're family. He should help us. We don't want to take it. Just sell it, and his supplier isn't available right now. Just get out," I tell her. "You let him talk to your sister that way? Get out," my girlfriend tells her. That was one of the rare occasions where my soon-to-be elementary school teacher girlfriend yells in someone's face. She's more of an introvert, shy, and has a high-pitched voice, but wow, I nearly fainted when she was yelling at her. My sister-in-law was dumbfounded and caught off guard. She left and yelled, "You're gonna be sorry for this." We cooled down, ate dinner, and continued watching Amazon Prime for the evening. The end? Nope. We were in bed when someone pounded at our door and was screaming. It was a deadbeat dad. "Come out, you dumb jerk! You're not gonna talk to my woman like that. I know you're home." I opened the door. "What do you want, you dumb white trash?" He stopped because I literally ripped the door open. "You disrespected my wife. Apologize to her and get some oxy, or I will beat you up. So he's about my height, around 185 centimeters, but one of these skinny tall guys. I am tall and a bit heavy. He shall not pass. He tried to enter our place, but my sport experience kicked in. I have played American football since I was a teen, and in a youth team I was a center guard. So I have some experience with blocking people from getting to our precious quarterback, or my girlfriend here. My sister-in-law also yelled at me, but I couldn't understand what she was saying. I was busy keeping the junkie out. I heard a click behind him, then a spray noise like hairspray. But it wasn't. It smelled funny, like old smoke or some strange plastic. The dad started yelling and put his hand in front of his face. My girlfriend had run to her purse and grabbed the pepper spray I bought her because she was harassed once at the train station waiting for her train. The dad started swearing at my girlfriend. Now the whole hallway was awake. Our neighbors poked their heads out of their apartments. In our unit there are 4 places down the hallway, and they seemed to wake up my neighbor. So he threw them out, asked us if we were okay, and we nodded. That night I didn't sleep in fear of him coming back with some friends. While my girlfriend slept, I sat in the kitchen with my baseball bat, sipping coffee and being ready to smash his head in. But they lived for good. The aftermath. I didn't call the cops that night. My girlfriend asked me not to because she's a family harmony person, and it would be worse. But then my future mother-in-law came to the rescue. My girlfriend called her that same night and told her everything. My mother-in-law lost it. The dad dealing drugs with her grandson around? My sister-in-law's other son, the one who was dead in jail, is living with his grandparents, and it's better that way. My mother-in-law called the cops, Child Protective Services, and some other numbers. Police gathered enough evidence to raid their place, and well, they found drugs and cash. His probation was gone, and he now has a new case against him. My mother-in-law took her grandson in. My sister-in-law was also arrested for resisting arrest and being a partner in crime. My mother-in-law still sees my sister-in-law as her daughter but got way stricter. My sister-in-law doesn't have a stable job, she mostly works in retail and loses her job every now and then. My girlfriend got contact with her for now, and we got some extra locks for our door. So yeah, be careful with the family of your significant other. Every family has its black sheep, and sometimes they are drug-abusing and dealing white trash half-sisters of your girlfriend who want oxy from you. Like millions of other people, at the beginning of the pandemic, I lost my job. Fortunately, I managed to obtain another job delivering desserts for a bakery. This particular shop was really small, but had 2 small counters in the front window facing outside. Pre-pandemic, these counters would allow a couple of people to sit and enjoy their sweets while watching the world go by. During the pandemic, our city allowed no indoor dining, so customers could come in and order, but they had to leave the shop to eat elsewhere. Additionally, last fall the city shut down the street in front of the shop to allow the numerous restaurants on the street room for outdoor dining. On slow days, I would use one of the counters to set up my laptop to try and find another job. One particularly slow Saturday afternoon, I noticed 2 kids, probably 4 and 6, running amok. These kids were annoying diners and just creating a nuisance, including pulling down some promotional material we had out front. I finally located the entitled mother who was sitting halfway down the block with someone else with several bottles of wine on a table. Finally, I had a delivery just as a very visible intoxicated entitled mother came into the shop with her 2 kids. I hopped on my bike and took off. About 10 minutes later, I came back and immediately saw these 2 kids at the counter, and it was a complete disaster. There was ice cream all over the counter, the window, and the wall. The entitled mother was nowhere to be seen. I walked into the back and asked the shift lead why the kids were eating in the shop. He didn't even bother to look up from his phone and shrugged his shoulders. At this point, I'm irritated because these kids are destroying the front of the shop and I will have to clean it up. I decided to go out and confront the entitled mother. I'm sorry, but because of city ordinance, your kids cannot eat inside the shop. The entitled mother slurring, "Where are they supposed to eat then?" She is literally sitting at a food top with two empty chairs. They can eat anywhere other than inside the shop. I'm busy right now. She takes another very healthy drink of wine. If you cannot get them right now, I will have to call the police. We cannot risk a fine and closure because your kids are eating inside. Screw you! At this point, I start walking back to the shop. The entitled mother must have realized that this could end very badly for her if she doesn't get her kids and stumbles after me. At this point, all she needs to do is go into the shop, tell the kids to grab their ice cream sandwiches and leave, or just leave the ice cream sandwiches for me to clean up. But no, she takes it to the next level. She walks in and grabs the first kid's ice cream sandwich and loudly slurs, "That jerk is making me throw away your ice cream." She then proceeds to slowly walk the 10 feet across the shop to the trash can while just glaring at me, all the while the kid is pleading with her not to throw his ice cream away. The first ice cream sandwich goes into the trash can. She then slowly walks back over to the second child, grabs his ice cream, and proceeds to keep glaring at me while she walks back to the trash can and throws it away. By now, both kids are absolutely hysterical. A potential customer walks in, sees what's happening, and promptly leaves. In one last act of defiance, the entitled mother grabs the napkin holder, throws it on the ground, and drunkenly screams at me, "Screw you! I will get you fired!" Finally, she was gone. I walked into the back to see the shift lead still firmly sitting looking at his phone. I grabbed the cleaning supplies to start cleaning up the store. I have not worked in the restaurant/hospitality industry since I was in college in the late 90s, and I never remember putting up with nonsense like this back then. Edit? About the Child Protective Services issue? Well, honestly, at that time, I did not even think of it. Given this happened a while ago, I was waiting until after I left the company to post it. Not sure it would do any good since I cannot remember the exact date though. However, in the future, if I ever see this type of behavior again, I will definitely report it. I live in the US, but I'm an immigrant from the Philippines. This happened 4 to 5 years ago when I went back home alone for a month-long vacation. I rented a house with no parking spot for a month, and my cousin let me borrow her rarely used car that I had to park on a street. I was only there for a month, so I was almost always out and about meeting friends and relatives to make the most of my stay. One day at noon, I walked out to the car to find the door open and a strange guy sprawled over the driver's and front seats, with vomit spread all over the dashboard and what looked like a severe nosebleed. I was angry at first, but when I realized the guy had no pulse and was not breathing, I administered first aid and called an ambulance and the cops. I also needed to call a mechanic because my car battery was dead. I later found out that the car alarm went off until the battery died. I slept through the alarm. What can I say? I'm a heavy sleeper. So I had a trashed car to wash, a battery to replace, and a police office to visit. Fun. The guy was pronounced dead upon arrival, and initial findings suspected illicit drug use. The cops suspected the guy to be a junkie trying to steal a car, but had overdosed in the middle of it. Apparently, the place I rented was surrounded by slums and known as a hive for illicit drug use and sales. A sad story to be sure. This being the Philippines, I was averse to pressing charges. Slow justice system. And who would I even press charges against? At that point, I kind of felt bad for the guy and just chalked it all up as a bad experience. 4 days later, at around 8 p.m., an older couple claiming to be the parents of the guy who died with several attendants, basically community police, came for a visit. 4 days later, at around 8 p.m., an older couple claiming to be the parents of the guy who died with several tenants, basically community police, came for a visit. At first, I thought they were there to apologize or make amends on behalf of their son, but lo and behold, they were asking me for money. I was irritated at first, but then I thought money must really be tight, so I tried to be understanding and polite, but it was still a firm no. I understand that the guy died, but it was through no fault of my own. After that, all hell broke loose. The previously calm mother cried as loudly as possible and tried to scratch me. A father tried to grab my shirt and wanted to punch me. Thankfully, the tenants were impartial and herded them away from me. All the while, they were insinuating I had something to do with their son dying. I was a bit shaken and genuinely just wanted to get away from there, but I made the mistake of putting that off until the next day. At around midnight, I was awoken to the sound of breaking glass and metal being pounded. They made enough of a racket to wake me up. About 4 to 5 guys were destroying the car and spewing all the profanities they could muster. I called the cops. I went to stay at my cousin's place. In the end, I had to stay 2 weeks more than I planned. I helped the cops try to investigate my case and paid for the damage incurred on the car. To add insult to injury, I never got my deposit on the house rental back. The house wasn't even damaged or anything. The end of the investigation resulted in 3 people caught for destruction of property and grave coercion. Aside from profanities, they were also threatening me to pay up. Thank God the rental had a sturdy fence. A neighbor also presented themselves as a witness. Last I heard, they also had prior offenses that got stacked on top of my case. The parents were not charged. When I was younger and still living with my parents, we stayed in a town that had an annual weekend-long music festival at the local high school. It attracted about 100,000 people over the weekend, so you can imagine the nightmare it created with parking. There will be a bunch of inconsiderate idiots every year, but mostly people will be fairly considerate. We will put up signs and banners on our sidewalk grass that said no parking, and people would ignore it. We would deflate tires, but that would be the end of it, usually. Until one year, we got home on a Saturday morning after taking a trip to the grocery store to find someone parked in our driveway. Like right in the driveway blocking our access. You have to be dumb, blind, and ignorant to not know it is a driveway. We couldn't get in, and no one inside could get out. We also had a sign on the gate saying, "No parking." We stood idling in the street for about 15 minutes until I decided, forget it, I'll call a towing company. They were there within 10 minutes as they had a unit on a corner about 2 blocks down. They hooked the car up and cleared our driveway. We stuck the tow node to the gate so the owner could find it and just about forgot about it until around midnight. We were woken up to a racket outside and someone sounding really angry. My dad and I walked out to find the owner of the car and 3 to 4 other people outside kicking our mailbox, trying to pull our gate off the rail and screaming obscenities when they saw us. My dad was armed, but I had pepper spray and a taser with me. One guy tried to jump the fence and my dad warned him. They were just screaming they were going to mess us up for having their car towed. My mom contacted our security company and my dad and I stood outside. One guy managed to break out a piece of the fencing and came inside. I promptly gave him a solid spray of mace right in the face. He came swinging, so I tased him, and he went down like a sack of potatoes. Funniest was when he whipped himself. Around that time, the security arrived and an altercation between the officer and the owner of the car ensued. He was detained and the police arrived and the guy that I maced and tased, as well as the owner of the car, was arrested. We pressed charges for breaking and entering as well as assault against the guy that broke through our fence. He ended up getting a substantial fine and a suspended sentence because the police added public intoxication and resisting arrest to his charges. He was hurling racist remarks at the police the whole time. The owner of the car got 18 months of jail time because of the assault on a security officer, as he was not a first-time offender and had a couple of assault charges against him previously. As we got a good story to tell, all over inconsiderate parking, it's shocking how a situation can escalate. And we got a good story to tell. All over inconsiderate parking. It is shocking how a situation can escalate. If the guy was nice about it, I would have even given him a ride to the towing company to retrieve his car. Edit for clarity. Some commenters are offended that we would deflate tires parked in front of our yard. To clear that up, the street itself is a no parking zone, as it's essentially only wide enough for 2 cars to pass each other. The cars would usually be parked off the street onto the grass and sidewalk. Those are the tires we would deflate. In my country, people take great care to maintain and actually garden those areas between their fences and the actual street, planting grass and so on. So when the cars parked there, they would drive over lawns or sometimes through flower beds. So in my opinion, they deserve it. This is a slightly older story, and while I remember a few specific lines that my friend and I still joke about, also this is generally paraphrased. Back when I was graduating high school, my mom informed me that my graduation gift was going to be a trip to Disney and that my best friend Bella could come too. So keep in mind Bella was 18 and I had turned 18 the next month. We spent most of our time in the Epcot showcase, usually Japan, and we had the pass to skip around from park to park and opted to eat in Epcot, Japan nearly every day. Since we had the meal plan package, we have been given a few snack options to use throughout the week. Honestly, the food we would eat during the meals was so much that we never really used any of the snacks during the majority of the week. So we hatched a plan that took weeks to use the remainder of our snack options on sushi and pastries from Epcot friends after we got lunch at our usual spot. We popped into the small eatery in Epcot, Japan and picked a table near the front. We had started to eat when an entitled dad, an okay-ish wife, and their two kids came in and flocked to the table next to us. The kids don't play a huge part since one was pretty much a toddler in a stroller and the other couldn't have been older than maybe 5. They sit down and grab a high chair for the toddler. The entitled dad then tried to wrestle with this massive stroller. I think he was trying to fold it down smaller and was getting stressed, so he's fiddling and yanking at random sections of it. Well, his annoyance clearly took over and he jerked what I think was a handle of the stroller back, but he didn't manage this well and ended up launching his hand back from the momentum. This was enough to punch a hole through the paper lantern light above the table. Now, this may not have been a massive problem had there not been a very clear sound of glass shattering. The poor lantern was hanging lopsided from a thread. The family collectively stared at the lantern for a few moments before they quickly packed up their kids and moved to a table on the other side of the small eatery. Bella and I sat there in disbelief, staring at a light fixture that looked like it would fall over any second. We thought about telling someone, thinking maybe the family would do it, but once they hunkered down to eat, we lost all faith in that. The tables were close enough at this time that if it fell, it would either come down directly on us or, if we were lucky, fall to the other side of the table. Either way, it would be a glass mess that someone would have to clean up. A lady working there walked by us, and we briefly stopped her. Quietly pointing to the lantern, we said we saw someone accidentally break it. I specifically did not point the family out. She looked stunned, thanked us, shuffled away, set one of those wet floor signs on a table to have people avoid sitting there, and started a conversation with someone on the other side of the food service counter. We felt good about that, went back to eating, and everything was great. Only no, not really. This story wouldn't be here if that's how it went. I saw Bella making a confused face while looking at something behind me, so I looked behind me, and only to see the entitled dad standing over me. Why in the world do you think that was your business? Bella and I just stared at him confused for a moment. Neither of us really sure what to say to this complete stranger. And this was when he decided to spill it out word by word, like we were stupid. Why in the world do you think that was your business? I heard you the first time. It's not like I mentioned you're the one who did it. That's not what I asked you. Why in the world do you think that was your business? Looking around confused, I said, I didn't want it to fall on someone. Still not what I asked. How was this your business? I was a bit confused how that didn't answer his question, and we just had a few seconds of a staring competition before it dawned on me that he was just crazy. Because I didn't want to eat glass-flavored sushi? You should have just ignored it. It wasn't your problem. At this point, I was over being yelled at by some guy I didn't know with a weird need to act like he's my dad. So I tell him, I know you think you can say whatever you want to us because you're older and think you own everyone younger than you, but man, you broke it and ran away. The only person you should be mad at is yourself because you can't use your adult words to talk to a server about something you broke. And instead, you need to yell at someone less than half your age to feel like you control the situation. super paraphrased here, but I did hit on these points to some degree. I just don't remember the exact words. I could tell he was winding up to yell back when his wife stepped in, calling him back to the table. He turned around to argue with her, and at this point, we just decided to leave. No management or police were involved. That was just a weird moment. Well, good though, we ate so much sushi and pastries at night, we couldn't manage dinner later. Fair warning, this one gets a touch violent. I'm in no way advocating violence or attempting to glorify it, just trying to tell my story of an entitled mother who played a foolish game and won several foolish prizes. So backstory, I'm in the Navy and a few years ago I was stationed on a ship. As part of my duties, I would occasionally have to stand as an armed guard at the entrance to the piers where the ships were docked. One Saturday evening, I'm standing guard, and for the first few hours, everything is going fine. A few pizza delivery drivers, a few totally not drunk sailors, yes, it's a stereotype, but it's true. Typical evening. Then my quiet watch came to a screeching halt. An entitled mother came to the gate and I asked to see her ID, and the following conversation ensued. For the sake of security, certain details are being left out. The entitled mother gives a very loud huff and pulls out her driver's license. My son is on a ship. Right, ma'am, is he coming to get you? No. Why? I can't let you onto the pier without proper identification or an escort. But I showed you my license. Ma'am, in order to come onto the pier by yourself, you'll need a military ID or a temporary pass. Since you don't have either, you'll need your son to come down from the ship and escort you on board. While I was talking with the entitled mother, another person came up with her military ID in hand, and I attempted to let her through. The entitled mother, practically yelling, said, I was here first, you brat. She didn't use brat, she used a much stronger word. Ma'am, that is so uncalled for. What are you going to do about it, you jerk? Again, she didn't use jerk, she used a highly offensive term. I used every ounce of mental strength not to yell at her. Ma'am, step away from the gate. No, I am going to see my son. And she proceeds to attempt to push past me. I pulled my can of OC spray off my belt, moved in front of her, and now forcefully commanded, Ma'am, this is your last warning. Step away from the gate or you'll be sprayed. For those who don't know what OC spray is, it's oleoresin capsicum. Think of it as mace and pepper spray's evil cousin, and it hurts a lot, like 100,000 hypodermic needles full of burning molten salt being drilled into your eyes, and it doesn't stop for hours. The entitled mother makes one more step towards the gate and says, Screw you, jerk! I sprayed the entitled mother right in the face, tossed the can away, tackled her to the ground, and handcuffed her. All the while she's yelling every obscenity in the book, threatening to sue, I know your boss, I'll get the president to get you fired, which personally I would have loved to see, yada yada yada. Typical Karen threats with no effect. While this was going on, the other guard who was with me had called for the watch supervisor, and the woman I was going to let through had called the base police. A few minutes later, 2 squad cars rolled up, one of which was a county sheriff, an ambulance, and the watch supervisor. The medics started treating her OC contamination, and when they cut the cuffs off, they were flex cuffs. She punched 2 of them and wiped OC onto the third. The base cop ran over and cuffed her with real cuffs. I recounted the encounter to the sheriff and the watch supervisor. The other guard and the woman did the same, and the entitled mother was arrested for trespassing on government property twice, failure to follow the instructions of military police, resisting arrest, and assaulting an EMT 3 times. The best part was her son's ship pulled into port 2 days later. For anybody who may think I used excessive force with the OC spray, I had 5 reasonable options to stop the entitled mother. 1. Verbal commands. Usually works with about 80% of sane and even slightly drunk or high people. Not gonna work on determined or foolish people. 2. Mock takedowns. Hands-on physical maneuvers and joint holds. Unencumbered, this would have been the best option. But in 25 plus pounds of gear and having a sidearm on, these are dangerous by themselves. Combined with OC or baton strikes, these are much more effective in gear. 3. OC spray. Causes a near-instant reaction in 99% of people, with very rare severe reactions occurring in less than 1 and 50,000. 4. Steel retractable baton. While it would have been effective, the baton was not necessary. Well-placed strikes can easily break bone and, in a worst-case scenario for a body strike, cause a heart attack. 5. 9mm sidearm. At no point during the encounter was a definition for deadly force authorization met, nor did I feel that my life, anybody else's life, or the docked ship's safety were threatened by the entitled mother's actions. Even if the entitled mother had pulled a knife, OC spray would be more than sufficient to disarm just about anybody. The full effects wear off in about 5 hours by themselves, and about an hour or two